All right, let's talk about food. Specifically, a really radical idea from Chef Dan Barber that kind of flips everything we think we know about sustainable eating on its head. This is a vision that goes way, way beyond just hitting up your local farmer's market.
So let's just get right to it with the big question. We've all been told for years that farm to table is the answer, right? It's like the gold standard if you care about your food. But what if it's not enough? What if that whole movement is actually part of the problem? Okay, so to really get this, we're going to break it down into 3 acts. Act 1 is all about what Dan Barber calls the first plate. And this is basically the world most of us live in. Before we can get to the future, we have to be honest about where we are right now, the industrial meal.
Okay, look at this number. 3,900. That's a lot. And what it represents is pretty wild. According to food expert Marion Nessel, that is the average number of calories available for every single person in the U.S. food supply. Every single day. That is almost double what most of us actually need. So what does that tell you? It tells you our system isn't really designed to nourish us. It's designed for massive overproduction.
And this idea of overproduction leads right into this great quote from Michael Pollan. He says, "We're not even eating food anymore, we're eating edible food-like substances. Things that are products of food science, not nature." That's the first plate in a nutshell. It's all about processing, engineering. And the hero of that plate, you know what it is. It's almost always a gigantic piece of industrially raised meat.
So that brings us to Act 2, the second plate. Naturally, people saw the problems with that industrial meal and a revolution started. It's a revolution that, honestly, many of us are a part of and that we love. But here's the twist. It's an incomplete revolution. Yeah, this is the one we all know, right? Local, organic, seasonal. You know your farmer by name, you're rejecting that whole industrial system. It feels so good. It feels like the perfect answer, doesn't it? But here's where we get to the core dilemma. The goals, they're fantastic. Support local farms, eat fresh food, what's not to love? But there are these unintended consequences. See, the second plate is all about what we, the consumers, want. We demand the best stuff, the filet mignon, the beautiful heirloom tomatoes. And that puts farmers in a tough spot. They're forced to grow what we'll buy, not necessarily what's best for the land. So what happens? A ton of less desirable parts of animals and plants get wasted. And those really important rotation crops that keep the soil healthy, they get ignored. We're basically asking the farm to be our personal supermarket, not a living, breathing ecosystem.
The farmer and writer Wendell Berry really hits the nail on the head here. He has this powerful critique where he says, we've basically substituted moral ignorance for real responsibility. What does he mean by that? Well, it means we get really excited about buying that one perfect organic carrot, but we completely ignore the health of the entire farm system that it came from. We get to feel good about our purchase, but we're blind to the actual ecological cost.
And that's what leads us to Act 3, the third plate. This is Dan Barber's big idea, his visionary solution. And you gotta understand, this isn't just a slightly better version of the second plate. It's not an upgrade. It's a completely different way of thinking about food. It's a philosophy built not on what we demand from the land, but on what the land actually needs from us.
So here's the big idea in a nutshell. A third plate menu doesn't start with a chef saying, "I want asparagus." No, it starts with a conversation with the farmer. The question is, what does your ecosystem need to thrive? What does the soil need? The number one priority is the health of the soil. Because if you get that right, everything else, flavor, nutrition, sustainability, it all flows from there.
Okay, so how does this actually work? What are the rules? Well, rule number 1, you let the farm write the menu. Simple as that. If the soil needs a cover crop like buckwheat to be healthy, then the chef's job is to figure out how to make buckwheat delicious. Rule number 2, celebrate the entire harvest. That means nose to tail, root to leaf. Use the whole thing, no waste. And third, you have to integrate animals and plants. In a healthy system, they're not separate problems. They're partners, essential for building up that rich, fertile soil.
Okay, that's the theory. It sounds good, right? But the real question is, what does this actually look like on a dinner plate? Let's take a look at how this philosophy completely changes what we eat.
So here's our starting point, the first plate. We've all seen this, a giant piece of steak that takes up like 3/4 of the plate. It's all about industrial efficiency. Protein is the undisputed king.
Okay, now let's move to the second plate. Definitely an improvement, right? The steak is a bit smaller, it's grass-fed. The veggies are organic, it looks better. But take a closer look. The basic design of the plate,
It's exactly the same. The protein is still the star of the show. We just swapped out a bad hero for a slightly better one.
And now, look at this. The third plate. This is the total game changer. What's the center of the plate? It's a vegetable, a carrot steak, grown specifically because it's good for the soil. Now, meat is still on the plate, but its role has completely changed. It's become a supporting actor, a delicious sauce. The grains on the side, they were part of the farm's natural crop rotation. See the difference? On this plate, the hero isn't a single ingredient. The hero is the health of the whole farm.
So let's wrap this up. We've journeyed through these 3 plates. So what does this all mean for us, for the food that's on your plate?
This little table really sums it up beautifully. The first plate, all about industrial efficiency. Get big, get cheap. The second plate, that's about us, the consumer, making a better choice. But the third plate, that's guided by ecological reality. It's not a pyramid with meat at the top anymore. It's more like a web, where every single part of the farm has a role to play and has value.
And really, if there's one big takeaway, it's this. The third plate is asking us to change who we are, to stop thinking of ourselves as just consumers who pick and choose. It's asking us to become ecological participants, to play an active role in the health of our farms, our soil, and our planet.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. What if the future of food, the future of truly delicious, sustainable food, is less about demanding exactly what we want and more about learning to love what the land can actually give us? It's a shift in perspective for sure, but it's a choice that could change everything. Not just what's on your plate, but maybe the future of the planet. Thanks for digging into this with me.